Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you. Live from the Lions Den Golf Club studio, here are your hosts, Mark Freeman and Weldon Braxton.
What's up, River Valley? Welcome into the Sports Blitz on a Friday. It is a couple days away from about 48 hours away, a little bit more.
That's right.
From the Super Bowl. We've got predictions galore today. Welcome in Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter in the Cogswell Motors studios. We're going to give you our predictions. We want to hear from you. 968 News is the phone number. You can call us at 968-6397, or you can find us on Facebook. Answer today's CrossFit Russellville poll question. What are your predictions for the Super Bowl? You can give us a winner, MVP, key matchups, anything you want to let us know about. Facebook.com/SportsBlitz is where you find that, or Facebook.com/RVL News. Got a lot of stuff going on in the world of sports. I went and watched the Pottsville-Subiaco basketball game last night. It was a fun game, and I'll talk a little bit about it later on. So we've got some local sports. We've got some state sports, talking Hogs here in a little bit. Weldon's got a burning question on his mind that he wants to address about recruiting. And we are just a few days away from signing day, as Arkansas hopes to nail down a quality recruiting class and keep up with the Joneses. Really, it's all it is in the SEC when 10 out of the top 15 are SEC teams.
That's true, Mark. And we're going to look at some things in recruiting. And the question is, I'll just go ahead and say it, and you at home can chew on it and give us a call or Facebook us if you have an answer. What do you think about Arkansas and Tennessee? Tennessee, according to many recruiting services, Mark, they have 17 four-star commits. Now, remember, this is Butch Jones coming off his first year. You had the Lane Kiffin deal, and in between you had Derek Dooley, who didn't get the job done. A lot of turnover. Hadn't been to a BCS Bowl since 1998 when they won the national championship. Yet somehow Butch Jones has managed to secure 17 four-stars, 34 commits. Obviously, they'll have to work some numbers, but Arkansas right now sitting with only 3 4-stars. So do you think something's going on at Tennessee, or do you think Arkansas is not pulling their weight? That's something we'll look at. And you're right, the Super Bowl, we do want to hear your predictions at home. I mean, you could predict anything with the Red Hot Chili Peppers at halftime. You think they may do something crazy and memorable, go ahead and give us that prediction. Although I think we would prefer you kept it on the field. We just want to give you the opportunity to do anything you want.
Yeah, we definitely have plenty of. You can talk about which songs you think Bruno Mars is going to sing at halftime. He's only got like 4 or 5 good ones, so then he just play those and get off stage.
They all sound the same. So.
Well, yeah, that's music these days in general. But, yeah, there's plenty of stuff to talk about today. We want to hear from you. That Tennessee topic that you were talking about, I don't want to accuse them of doing something wrong, but it just does seem a little odd, that Butch Jones comes in, and I've from all accounts, he's a really good coach. He can sell that Tennessee mystique. He can sell that Tennessee dynasty. I don't want to say dynasty. It was a long time ago, but their history and the pageantry that has gone on. The fact that Peyton Manning's in the Super Bowl, and I know it's 20 years ago, but they've got some things to sell there that Arkansas doesn't necessarily have to sell. But it is kind of curious. So
it's a huge gap, though.
I think Arkansas may be a little down from where they want to be as far as having the 4 and 5-star guys, but Tennessee also has a little bit more of a pipeline recruiting wise to some good spots, and so they may be, it may be an anomaly, a 1-year thing. Now if next year they come out and they've got an Alabama class, 5 stars or whatever it is, that'd be a little questionable.
Well, you go back to last year with Hugh Freeze and Ole Miss, we were kind of thinking the same thing. I think they got the number 1 player at 3 different positions in the country and several other really good players. And so, if it is an ongoing thing, it's something you'll look at with Tennessee. But Mark, also today we will be saying goodbye to a public figure, a figure in sports we've all grown to know. I would say love, but some people may not say that about Mr. David Stern, NBA commissioner, officially stepping down. 30 years on the job, Mark. We've seen a lot of turnover in the NBA as far as different things, good and bad. You look at some teams moving around. You look at the dress code. You look at the popularity of the game, the growing of the game globally. A lot of different things went on during David Stern's tenure, and we say goodbye to him.
Man, right now the NBA, I know this is in the dregs. This is a tough time of the NBA season, but you got a guy like LeBron and a game like LeBron and Kevin Durant, not Carmelo. He did have 60 a week or so ago, but you had Kevin Durant and LeBron James going head-to-head the other night in Miami and Oklahoma City. Man, they hit 16 threes, I think is what it was?
Something like
Just
that.
something crazy. The most threes they've hit since they were the Sonics. It's a long time. But it's the NBA's trying its best to keep atop, the mind right now as far as basketball is concerned. College basketball starting to heat up in the conference race. So here in the next month or so, we'll really be getting into to good time for college basketball, and then we'll transition into NBA. But David Stern he's done a good job in his 30 years of globalizing the game. He's done a lot of good things and there's some things that people don't really care for about David Stern. Some controversies as well. If Corey Thone were sitting in here like he was that day, he'd tell us about the Sacramento Kings and how they took a bribe and all this stuff. He's an NBA conspiracy theorist, and I know a lot of folks.
Well, there are some
that
shady
don't think,
things.
yeah, they don't think the
Kings.
NBA is legit.
Yeah. I mean, and I think when you're David Stern, Mark, and anytime you're in a leadership position, whether it be a small group or whether it be the commissioner of a league, you're not going to please everybody. It's really important that you don't get pulled in multiple directions, but you make the decision that's best for whatever group you're running. And that's Roger Goodell, that's David Stern, that's Gary Bettman, it's Bud Selig, anybody you want to name as far as running a professional sports entity. You're just going to be criticisms, but I think in the end he did what was best for the game, and he'll be missed.
There's another Super Bowl topic that I want to talk about, and it's basically the influx of media that show up to the Super Bowl and Super Bowl week. They start asking, we joked about it on Wednesday, some of the stupid questions they'll ask. Do you believe that this is a must-win game? No, we're at the Super Bowl. We'll just win next week. Really? I mean, do you wish you had a pet pterodactyl? Really? Well, somebody asked a question yesterday, just try to stir up a little controversy, and we'll talk about that. Richard Sherman and Peyton Manning drama here in a little bit. But let's get started with our Peters Family Living local sports look. Tonight is the real night for basketball across the area. The Russellville Cyclones got a win on Tuesday over Greenwood, 47-41 on the road. The women fell, but the men won. And then the Clarksville boys and girls both fell at Morrilton, 65-60 loss for the men. I think the women lost by 6. But they play tonight, and it's kind of a flip-flop game. It's their basketball homecoming. The boys play first. They're playing against Huntsville. So if you want to get there and watch the boys game, I believe it'll start at 6 o'clock tonight. But the 4A games, like I've told you before, a lot of them now, the junior high and high school coaches are sort of on both staffs. The coaches from, the junior high head coach is the high school assistant coach, and the high school head coach sometimes assists with the junior high. So they're starting to play some games on the same night. The junior high boys on the same night, and then the junior high girls on another night, and the high school girls. So tonight, I think you're going to have the Pottsville girls, but last night you had the Pottsville boys take on Subiaco. Obviously, there's no girls team at Subiaco. But the Apaches, who got a big win on Tuesday over Maumelle, needed this win over Subiaco to basically move into a conversation. Now, they still need a little bit of help, but they moved into a conversation where they can win the 4A4 because they absolutely blitzed the Subiaco Trojans last night. One of the best games that I've seen them play in a long time, and that's saying a lot because I watched the Pottsville Apaches win a state championship last year in 4A4. They won 59-44 last night. They were up 24 points at one point in the fourth quarter. Just an incredible game from the Apaches where, at the beginning of the game, Weldon, they were up 3 points at the end of the first quarter. I'm going to make sure 16-13 after a quarter, and you could just feel that it was going to be it was a good atmosphere. But Pottsville ran them off in the second quarter and led. Let me see what the score was: 38-24 at the half on a Michael Perry buzzer beater. And then at the end of the third quarter, they hit another buzzer beater. Travis Cole 3 off the backboard from about 25 feet away with 0.6 seconds on the clock to put them up 24. They were up 58-34, and then they cruised to the win. So they only scored 2 points in the entire fourth quarter. Wow. Well, either way, though, they played a very, very good game, and I was impressed with what I saw from Pottsville last night. A great atmosphere. The team has turned a corner, and as we talked to Coach Thurman the other day, he knew that they had worked on some things and that things kind of were starting to click. Well, last night it seemed that everything clicked.
Something you said earlier reminded me of a story. There was this guy who he went to Subiaco, and another person was talking to him. He's like, "Yeah, this is my sister." And the guy asked, "Oh, did you go to Subiaco too?" The guy asked his sister.
Didn't quite know how that went. Huh?
Yeah, we all had a good laugh with that one. But you're right about Pottsville, Mark. We've talked about buying stock in them. That's something I've said about this team and how you probably could get a good price on them because they were having some struggles earlier. But you can kind of look to cash in now. Your investment's looking pretty good. Going 2-0 this week, and that's something we talked about. I believe it was on Monday when you have the return games against Maumelle and Subiaco, being able to at least split. Well, they were able to get both games. We know about the drama that happened against Maumelle. They were able to overcome that, and then to really play well, Mark. Based on what you've told me and some other people I've heard from, they really came out, executed, especially in the second and third quarter, took that game over against a good Subiaco team. That's a great sign as they move forward into close to postseason play.
And, things didn't always in the game go Pottsville's way. 2 minutes into the game, not even 2 minutes into the game, I look up and they've got two big men with 2 fouls apiece already. They had to go 4 big men deep in the first half because they got 2 to 3 fouls on the other 3 guys. So they got some contributions out of guys that they wouldn't normally get points and rebounds and just heavy contribution from. And Subiaco has a couple guys, number 5 and number 3. Number 3 is a big man. He's about 6'4", and he's skilled. And number 5 is about 6'3". He's kind of a wing. He hit a couple threes, had a dunk off a breakaway, just a tomahawk. And he was very, very good. But what Pottsville did that I thought was so interesting is, Subiaco, Pottsville's running his own. They wanted to get it, swing it all around the place, hit threes, and get inside whenever they could. And they did a good job of it for a little while. But Pottsville got to the point where they were just running. I mean, just sprinting down the floor. Every possession, it didn't matter, made or missed, basket. They were getting down the court in a hurry. And you could see the Subiaco guys got tired. And it was just a point where, everything was even, and then they just broke. And Pottsville went on a run, and I got to give a lot of credit to Coach Shane Thurman because I couldn't really tell you exactly how great a coaching job he did last night. And just watching at the end of quarters, and there's guys in foul trouble, and he's offense, defense substituting, and he gets guys in at the right time to hit 2 buzzer beaters because Michael wasn't in at the end of the second quarter on defense because they didn't want to get him a 3rd foul. But somehow the ball rolls out of bounds. They get him the ball, and he hits a buzzer beater. And then at the end of the 3rd quarter, Travis didn't, they didn't want to get a cheap one on him. They get a stop, 0.6 seconds left, put him back in. He hits a 3 at the buzzer. So everything that Coach Thurman tried last night went according to plan, and that's against one of the best coaches. Coach Tinkley from Subiaco is a great coach, and everybody would tell you he is a very, very formidable coach. And Coach Thurman and Coach Hill and the Pottsville coaching staff did a great, great job last night to get that win. Now they're going to have to face these teams again in district and or regionals. So now I know they'd rather see Subiaco than Maumelle as far as athletically because they don't, most of Pottsville's guys, they've got a couple of 6'4", 6'5" guys. They don't play them together. They're both very different players, but for the most part, Pottsville started 4 guards all year. So they don't want to face a team like Maumelle with all that height and size and athleticism if they don't have to. But long story short, Pottsville's coming along, and they're playing very well right now. I'm interested to see how they do in the 4A4 conference.
Yeah, Mark, and you look at it from a coaching standpoint. You mentioned the job the Pottsville staff, what they were able to do, and I can just speak from experience. When you make a lot of moves and you do certain things and make adjustments, and it's all working for you on a given night, you feel great. You feel like everything I touch turns to gold, and then you have those other nights where it's like, this is the same process I'm going through. I'm making the same adjustments, and it's just not quite working out. So I guess I'm looking at it from a coaching standpoint. I look at Coach Hill and Coach Thurman on that staff, and I know it must be a great feeling when you're putting things in motion. You're doing little things, and those little things are paying big dividends because there are other nights where you're doing those same things, and you're thinking ahead, you're doing all the right processes, and it just doesn't work out. So last night had to be a great feeling for them.
I also need to give one more thought here as we head to break. The Russellville Cyclones going to be signing a baseball player to a scholarship offer with Crowder College, Austin Robinson, on the 4th. I think that's Tuesday at 3:30. Coach Long called me the other day, asked if we'd come. Love to be out there and watch Austin Robinson sign his scholarship offer with Crowder College. 3:30 on February 4th at the Russellville High School cafeteria if you want to go be a part of that. Big congratulations to him continuing his career at the next level. So lots of basketball action tonight. We hope you'll get out and support your local team. As we leave for the moment, we want you to call us today, 968 News, with your thoughts on the Super Bowl. We'd love to hear from you, and also to have your answer to the CrossFit Russellville poll question. Go to facebook.com/sportsblitz to answer that.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance of rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Can I just say this to the thousands of people who are on River Valley Leader right now?
Literally.
We are not weathermen or weatherwomen, and we sincerely apologize for offending those of you who are, but we shared a weather model yesterday called a European weather model. I don't have a clue what it's about, but it said that there is a possibility of a great deal of snow in this area for next week, at the end of next week. Smart people understand. They were calling, the Farmer's Almanac was calling for a blizzard at the Super Bowl. Did we expect that there was going to be a blizzard? Who knew? It was so far in advance. We're not saying it's going to snow a foot. We're saying, hey, this is what this guy says. It might snow a foot. And if it does, you're prepared for it. If not, oh well, you went out and bought some bread and water and you have to use it. I'm so sorry. I hope we don't create a panic by telling people it might snow. You're going to have to get over yourselves, TV people. And I could call you out by name, but I won't.
Do it.
Won't do it.
Please.
Long story short, we appreciate you joining the Sports Blitz today. Mark Freeman, Weldon Braxton, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studios. If you want to get in on the show, 968 News is the number. If you want to complain about the weather, 968 News is the number. My name is Mark Freeman. I'm the managing editor, and my email is mark@rivervalleyleader.com. I'd love to hear from you today.
So what you're trying to say is you're not really hiding from anybody. Is that what you're trying to say?
I don't understand what the big deal is.
Yeah.
Okay, you say is anybody boycotting the Farmer's Almanac now because they said it was going to be a blizzard? No, get over yourself. Grow up. So somebody says it's going to snow. If it does or it doesn't, it's not like we're predicting it. We're showing something. If we sent another prediction out that said it's not going to snow, are we saying it's not going to snow? No. Long story short, I'm hacked off. So.
Just real quick, I'll say, just read this story. But Mark, you know what it is. You know human psychology when it comes to the weather. Anything weather related that's posted is assumed to be a weather report. So people look at that and they say, well, he posted something about the weather. That must mean that's a prediction they're coming out with.
That's true.
Really, it was passing information along. I agree with you. I would like to know. I mean, again, if it snows, 2 centimeters or 20 feet, I would like to know just because of the possibility. So,
watch KARK. Channel 4, watch KNWA in Northwest Arkansas, watch Fox 16, Fox 24, our content partners for your latest weather updates. We'll share some of their weather models. We'll share some of the latest stuff as the time comes. It is looking likely that there is going to be some winter weather this weekend, but Lord, please don't quote me on that, because if it doesn't, Lord, I don't want you to burn my house down. Let's look at the Super Bowl real quickly, because there is a game on Sunday, and it is between the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks. We hope that you have your plans prepared. We can't call it a blank party because I don't want to get sued, and Lord knows today would be the day I would get sued by the NFL for saying a certain word. So
big game.
The big game, exactly. So let's look at some matchups. We want to hear your thoughts on the matchup, so you can give us a call or find us on Facebook, facebook.com/sportsblitz. But we've been breaking this game down for 2 weeks, and now it's the nitty-gritty. We'll give our prediction later, but as we talked about on Wednesday, some very interesting matchups, and now there's some very interesting quote-unquote drama as the media guys run back and forth between Richard Sherman and Peyton Manning, and they ask Richard Sherman about Peyton Manning, and he says, well, I mean, he throws a lot of ducks. And Peyton Manning says, yeah, well, I throw a lot of touchdowns and yards with those ducks. And nobody really has argued the fact that Peyton Manning's arm strength's not quite what it was.
Right.
But for years, he's thrown ducks. He just puts it on the money pretty much every time. He gets guys in the right spot all the time, and he's an all-time great. I think it's funny that there's some manufactured drama around the Super Bowl.
I do too, Mark. Let's give this story some context. Richard Sherman, I think he wrote an article about a month ago about Peyton Manning. He does some things with Peter King. We all talked about his intellect, so on and so forth. We ran that to death. He wrote about Peyton Manning, and he alluded to the fact that his arm wasn't what he used to be, and he throws ducks and things of that sort. Well, here they are in the big game playing against each other. Obviously, as you alluded to, media members are going to bring that back out to try to get something started. Richard Sherman, I don't want to say disappointed, but I didn't think he completely owned up to that article. I think when he was asked about it, Richard Sherman said, well, I did say that, and it's because of a bunch of different factors. He doesn't always get the laces. That's why he throws a lot of ducks. He kind of softened up on it a little bit. This is big bad Richard Sherman. You expect him to really own it and own it emphatically. He didn't quite do it. And then what's also interesting about this is you talked about Peyton Manning's response. We know how people don't normally trash talk Peyton, but when they do and it gets back to him and they ask him about it, he kind of takes the ultimate high road of, we'll see what happens on Sunday, and he'll give an answer like that. Peyton he didn't get all the way dirty, but he got a little bit in the mud.
You can tell he got a little offended by that,
He did. He usually stays way above the mud, but he got a little bit of dirt on him when he's like, well, that's true. I throw a lot of ducks for touchdowns and yards. I mean, I guess it struck me, Mark, is Peyton Manning, we saw a little bit of something. We didn't get that politically correct Manning family above the fray type answer we normally get. We got a little bit of edge to him, and I think it's a little bit interesting.
I mean, you think about it. You're in the Super Bowl. You break every record known to man of passing yards, touchdowns, points scored in a season, all these different and you're getting asked at the Super Bowl about throwing ducks. I mean, really, I would be like, where am I? And who am I? 4-time MVP, all these different accolades, probably one of the top 5 best quarterbacks of all time by most metrics. And you're being asked at the Super Bowl about throwing ducks. I would probably answer it in sort of the same way. And I can't necessarily blame Richard Sherman for saying it because it's true. But at the same time, man, if he gets a duck thrown over his head for a touchdown, they're going to talk about it.
It will. I think the thing with Seattle is I don't think, they're always brash or confident they talk, but I don't think they wanted this. I think Richard Sherman, during Super Bowl week, he's been very toned down as far as talking trash. The problem was something he wrote a month ago kind of came back and bit him in the back. Yep. I think they had the mindset of we're going to be humble. We're still going to be confident and laid back, but we're not going to talk trash this week. And they weren't. It's just that somebody brought up something Sherman did a month ago, and it kind of came back and created a little bit of friction.
So is there any matchup we haven't already discussed that sort of jumped out to you and you may have thought more about since we were last on the air that you want to address today?
We've looked at the secondary versus the receivers. I think that's where a lot of people are looking at. That's where it starts. I think, some X factors for me. Obviously, the Seattle offense is an X factor. If they can move the ball consistently in a way that we don't know if they can, that's going to really help Seattle out. I'm looking at the defensive line, really the front seven for Seattle, because I think they've been helped significantly by the crowd noise, but at the same time, they are very athletic. They are very explosive and talented. So depending on how they can get off, I think that'll be an X factor in the game too. When we give our prediction, I'll get into some more details and a few bullet points as to why I'm leaning the way I'm leaning. But that's kind of one thing I've thought about, that Seattle defensive line. They're really good, but they're also really helped by that crowd noise. So I want to see how they play.
Yeah, knowing that this game's across the country from their home, it brings a different mindset to me because as I'm thinking of the Seattle Seahawks, I'm thinking of the Seattle that plays at home just incredibly well, almost untouchable a lot of time. And then I have to think about the fact that, okay, that Seattle team that was rolling and playing so well at home, well, they're not at home this week. They're playing the Super Bowl in New York. Now they're going to have to deal with bad weather. Who's better suited? Well, I say bad weather, cold weather with a possibility of severe weather. Don't quote me on that. But there's really no telling who's going to handle it better. Denver, they play Mile High. It's freezing cold up there. It's not like it's going to catch them off guard, but I do know that the way Peyton and the offense is kind of flinging it around quite a bit, a windy day, which, there was some forecasted possibility for wind on Super Bowl Sunday, that would mess some stuff up. And Marshawn Lynch on the ground, that's sort of a constant. You just turn around and hand it to him. You don't have to worry about any variables. He's going to be pretty good. So I'm hoping as a Denver Broncos supporter that the weather doesn't damper what could be a really good Super Bowl.
That's a good point, Mark. And you mentioned the Denver Bronco offense. I think Knowshon Moreno is somebody to watch too. If you were to tell me Knowshon Moreno will be the leading rusher in this football game, I wouldn't think you were absolutely crazy just because of the dynamics of each offense. You have Marshawn Lynch as a marked man by that Denver defense. What else is scaring you on that Seattle offense? I mean, I could see a scenario where, they hold him in check pretty well, but at the same time, he is the better back than Moreno. We all know that, but just being a marked man versus Moreno having the focus off him on the weapons, we know Peyton Manning is willing to hand the ball off in the right situations. Knowshon Moreno could accumulate a lot of yards, so I think that'll be something to look for as well.
Knowshon Moreno, he is sort of an unsung hero, and a lot of people forget about him because they're thinking about all the targets that Peyton's got to throw to and how they have to cover them and how they have to, worry about them. And they sort of say, who was it? I think it was the New England Patriots, that they basically were out here and they said, all right, 200 yards rushing for Knowshon Moreno, just sort of like it was nothing. He could be a guy who makes a big impact in the game, and if he causes Denver to have complete balance in the game, it's all over. I mean, there's just no way that the team's going to be able to beat Denver if they can run the ball and pass the ball with great effectiveness, and you don't really understand or know which one's coming next. Peyton's going to keep them off balance as it is, but I wondered about one thing that I was thinking about as I was trying to break down the game, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Seattle, a very physical defense, especially in the defensive backfield. Lots of guys who are good tacklers. Denver likes to do a whole lot of screen junk and, horizontal passing game.
Right.
I don't say a lot of it. They do some of it. Seattle, they've got to bank on their receivers blocking well, their receivers picking well in some cases, and making guys miss. can they make these Seattle defensive backs miss? Is that something that even needs to be thought about in the game?
Well, that's a good point. The Denver screen game is something. And I went back and think. I actually want to correct something I said earlier this week, and this is a good opportunity to do it. I do think Seattle's defense will be physical as we expect. I think on the outside, because of their cover three, you'll see man-to-man type looks on the outside. But really inside, I don't think it's going to be as much man-to-man as people think. And Rex Ryan, he's probably the defensive mind I respect in the NFL more than anybody. He brought up this point. He says they're still playing zone principles. Yes, it looks like physical man-to-man, but you look at the slot and how they play tight ends and slot receivers, it's still more zone principles and just press straight up man-to-man. They don't run around and chase people. So I think the screen game could be effective. Again, you don't have to get great surface area drive blocks like you're on the offensive line. If you can just get in somebody's way, if Demaryius Thomas is running a tunnel screen and Welker or Julius Thomas, whoever's inside is going out and they're blocking that out, the cornerback, he doesn't have to get a great devastating block. Get in his way enough to free Thomas. Once Thomas gets inside leverage and catching it going inside and up the field, he's got what he needs right there. So I think they can block enough against Seattle's secondary.
Hang on for our Super Bowl predictions. We want to hear from you today. 968 News is the phone number. We'll give you our Super Bowl predictions. More breakdowns right after this break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Where do you stand on the Super Bowl? Who do you have winning? It's a back and forth. I'm sure Weldon's going back and forth about it. He's told me that he decided his winner on the way in here today. I have a normal way of going about things, and I say normal, it's my normal, where always joke about it, calling it the Lou Holtz problem. Like Lou Holtz always, Notre Dame, best team in the country. I don't know how we're going to beat Navy this week, and they're 48-point favorites or whatever it is. I always have this thing where even if I'm the better team or if I'm rooting for the better team, I'm thinking, man, I don't know how this is even going to be possible to beat this team. It goes all the way back to school, playing ball and things like that. So I don't think that it's that big of a disparity between Denver and Seattle in that aspect. So I don't want to make it seem that way. But I've gone all the 2-week period before the Super Bowl thinking, man, Seattle's defensive backs are good. Man, Marshawn Lynch is very, very good. Man, Russell Wilson has looked very impressive. What is Denver going to do to win this game? And spoiler alert, I'm not going to give you my score or my winner right now, but I have convinced myself that Denver can win this game. Am I saying they're going to? You'll see here in a little bit. But I have convinced myself that, Peyton Manning is Peyton freaking Manning for a reason. He's very good. Now, people give him a bad rap because he lost that Super Bowl to New Orleans back a couple years ago. They're driving to win the game. He throws a pick six. So that's what people have ingrained in their memory of Peyton Manning as a Super Bowl quarterback. But if you think about it, man, this postseason has sort of been a have some of this type postseason from Peyton Manning. As
right.
You start the playoffs, they get the bye, and everybody who has watched them play over the years thinks, oh Lord, Peyton Manning after the bye, his rhythm's off, he's going to get beat, he's going to be awful. Well, they come out and people think, oh Lord, they're going to have to play San Diego, who is hot, who is beaten. Phillip Rivers has beaten Peyton in the playoffs before in this exact type of situation. Oh man, it's just a perfect storm. Peyton's going to go lose. Well, no, they didn't. They win the game. Then the next week, it's Peyton. Can he beat Tom Brady? It's just all these things that Peyton Manning has overcome in this playoff run. To me, I don't want to say it's a team of destiny type thing, and I'll definitely be rooting for Peyton Manning, but I don't know if they can do it has kind of gone away for me over the past 2 weeks.
I got a question. Good stuff, by the way. Good stuff. When is prediction time? Because I'm almost ready to go now. My prediction.
We'll give it about 7 minutes.
We get 7 minutes. All right, I'll say this then. Look, I feel as though both ignored units will show up in this game. I believe the Seattle offense, as hard as I've been on them, they've deserved it. They've been relatively anemic. I believe in the 2 weeks to prepare and the 2 weeks Russell Wilson's had. We know he's a student of the game. We know he's a very good athlete. I think the Seattle offense will show up. Are they going to drop 30 points or anything like that? No. But I do think they're going to be able to move the ball and do some things that we didn't think they could do. On the flip side of it, I know it sounds like I'm kind of counteracting what I'm saying here. I think the Denver defense will show up. So it's like, well, what gives? You think the Seattle offense will show up in the Denver defense? I think these two ignored units are going to come out with a chip on their shoulder. And ultimately, that matchup could decide the game. I know all eyes and cameras will be on when Peyton's on the field, when Denver's defense is, or Seattle's defense is on the field. That's where all the action will be. And then we'll all go get, some Super Bowl nacho dip or something when Seattle's offense is on against Denver's defense, because that's the matchup we really don't care about. But in the end, I'll say this, because I got some things for my pick, but I'm saving it for prediction time. So I will say this. I think both ignored units, I think they will both show up. And I think it could come down to whichever ignored unit shows up the best will decide the game.
Man, I'm looking forward to it because there's so many different layers and levels as we peel back the onion. We look at the different things that could possibly happen. And we'll come out and watch the Super Bowl. It'll be completely different than what we've talked about. I wonder if there will be any wrinkles. But at this point, you're in the Super Bowl. You got there by no accident, with what got you there, and it seems sort of like a pride thing where you wouldn't go away from who you are and what you do. Now, you may have a Sean Payton type let's kick the onside kick type thing, or let's fake a punt or field goal or something like that, but I don't think you're going to see any double reverse passes and stuff like that from Denver. No. That's not what they do. You're not going to see a throwback pass to Peyton to some crazy stuff like that.
Seattle might, but not Denver.
You think they would?
I think Seattle would do something like that.
How do you think Seattle uses Percy Harvin? That's the big question.
They tried using him in some special ways. The 2.5 snaps he has played this year, he could be an X factor. He could be.
He's going to have to be big play guy for Seattle because aside from Marshawn Lynch, they don't really have a whole lot as far as offensive weapons go. And that speaks a lot to what Russell Wilson has done this season. All right, we've just got a couple minutes left in this segment, and then we've got to move on to Hog Talk and Arkansas Razorback news. So let's just predict what's going to happen in the Super Bowl. Weldon, I'll let you go first.
I was going to give you the honors, but I'll take it.
Go for it.
I will take the honors. I can make a case for both teams. I really could. And so I could do it so much to the point to where that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to start. Who should I start with? I'm going to start my case for the Denver Broncos. That's where I'm going to start. I think it's dangerous. Anytime, no matter how good you are, no matter how talented you are, I think it's scary to come into a game against Peyton Manning showing him the same look or not varying your looks at all. And Seattle's made it very clear that they're confident in their ability, they're confident in their scheme, and they're going to line up and play. They're not going to try to mix things up a lot or be confusing a lot to Peyton Manning. We've already talked about how to attack that cover three. I expect a lot of flood concepts, high-lowing that curl-flat defender, doing a lot of the things you saw the Indianapolis Colts do, just typical basic ways you attack a cover three defense. Peyton will employ a lot of those things in his formations, in his alignment, and, of course, in his play design. I think Peyton Manning, more important than anything, I think he's at peace. I didn't feel like he was at peace going into the New Orleans game. I think that legacy talk and clutch, and he couldn't, even though he had already won a Super Bowl, I just felt like there was weight on him going into that Super Bowl. I feel like Peyton, just in his interviews, what he's done with the media, feel like he's a man at peace, and I think that's really going to pay dividends for him coming down the stretch in this game. That's my case for Denver in a nutshell. My Seattle case, the front seven is so athletic. They're the most athletic defense top to bottom in the league. I still like things about San Francisco's defense that I don't like about Seattle, but in terms of just athleticism across the board, it's Seattle hands down. I mean, you can't really top what they have. As I said before, I think the Seattle offense will show up more than what people think. I think they will have a chance to move the ball, even though Denver's defense is hot, which is, by the way, another point for the Broncos. The cornerbacks are physical. Demaryius Thomas, he has to show up against physical play. He didn't do that in the first game against Talib. Did do a little bit better before Talib got hurt in the AFC Championship game. But my biggest point for Seattle, and why I think they're really in a great position to win this game, Pete Carroll may be the best big game coach in football. I know Saban's up there, you can argue, but you look at those USC teams, how he would get them ready for a big Rose Bowl game, and how just Pete Carroll, he gets a team ready just because he's so relaxed. He's so cool. He just knows how to get a team ready for a big game. He is an awesome big game coach. And so that is why I'm going to pick the Denver Broncos to win the Super Bowl.
He did it to me again.
I'm going to pick the Denver Broncos because Peyton Manning's at peace. Think that defense is hot. I got the Broncos, Mark, and I'm not going to get this score right, so I might as well just say it. I got the Broncos 26-25 over Seattle.
I'm not going to get this score
I'm not going to get it right anyway. 26-25, Denver Broncos.
Man, I thought you were going to go Seattle there for a second, and I know you did that on purpose. I've got Denver winning the game, 23-16, and I'll tell you how. All this talk and I know I'm not the only one who's talking up this Seattle defensive backfield and all this, yapping about how good, so-and-so's mediocre and we're the best and all this stuff, man. On the flip side, Denver, their defense has played pretty good, and I can see this being bulletin board material. Well, that defense is that great, and we've done all this good stuff. We just stopped an all-time great in Tom Brady and beat him, and we're getting no credit whatsoever. We're doing this without Von Miller. We're doing this without our best defensive back, Chris Harris. We're doing this without so many different weapons on the defensive side of the ball. I can see them taking that challenge and stepping up to the plate because they already have. They've shown up in a big way in these playoffs. So I could see Denver's defense stepping up. You got a big dude. What's the defensive lineman's nickname? Pot Roast. I almost called him Pancake. Pot Roast. I can see him having an impact on the Seattle running game. Now, I know Marshawn Lynch is great. He could very easily, if Seattle wins this game, he could very easily be the MVP. I mean, it's probably going to be him or Russell Wilson at a wild card, Percy Harvin. But I can see him having a big impact on this game, but the way that Denver's defense has sort of been, I don't want to say they've been maligned, they've just kind of been forgotten about. All the talks about Denver's offense against Seattle's defense. Yes, it's the number one offense of all time versus the number one defense this year. So that's where the talk's going to go. But I can see Denver's defense stepping up and causing 16 points to a team like Seattle. It'd be a very good defensive performance. And on the flip side, Denver averaging 40 points a game, scoring 23. That's saying a lot about the Seattle defense. So I can see where this is going to be a good game. Another thought that you opened my eyes to the other day about the Seattle defense. You talked about how they're so aggressive and they get after the receivers so much and they gamble so often that Peyton Manning, I can just see him putting wrinkles together all week to take advantage of their own aggression. Fake that screen and throw over the top, or fake that curl over here or out over here and run the corner behind it like you mentioned the other day. I can see those things and the running game of Denver coming together to cause balance for the Denver offense and helping them get down the field and score points. I trust Peyton Manning. I know I'm just saying this as a Peyton Manning fan. I'm rooting for Peyton Manning, and I'm hoping that I'm right here in this prediction. But as we've mentioned all week, this is a toss-up game. You've got it a 1-point game. This is going to be an incredible Super Bowl.
It really is, Mark. It really is. And I think one matchup to look for, and I'll close out with this. Inside, Cam Chancellor is a strong safety, can't cover Welker and Thomas. So what does that linebacker on the other side do if he has to cover Welker or Thomas? That'll be a huge key. I think it's going to be a great game. Pete Carroll. If Seattle wins, I think it'll be because of Pete Carroll.
You want Pete Carroll to be the MVP, huh?
Well, he's a heck of a big game coach. He's one of the guys I would just want to coach my team in a big game as far as keeping them loose yet focused at the same time. He does a great job.
Yeah, and I never have been a big Pete Carroll fan, but watching his USC teams, a lot of that had to do with the fact that he had so much more talent than everybody else for the most part. And then part of it did have to do with the fact that he's got Will Ferrell coming in telling jokes to his team, and he's got them walking around in flip-flops and just stuff like that. So the NFL players, I don't know if you saw that, they did some sort of survey, and they asked which coach they'd like to play for the most, and by far it was Pete Carroll. As far as an NFL coach that they'd most like to play for. So there's something to that. I also saw that 85% of players polled said that they would play in the Super Bowl with concussion. That's scary.
And that doesn't surprise me. Players will rather you hit them in the head than tear their ACL every time.
Of course, yeah. Until 20 years from now when they can't walk and they can't feel their face. All right, we got to come back right after this break and look at the Hogs basketball game on the road at LSU. And then some recruiting news. Frank Ragnow will be making his decision around 3:15, so we won't have that one today, but we'll talk recruiting right after this break.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. We've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KARK4 today.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peter's Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
Arkansas men's basketball team traveling to LSU. Probably they're right now are leaving in the near future to get to LSU to take on the Tigers tomorrow, 4 o'clock on ESPNU. LSU just upset Kentucky on, I guess it was Tuesday night or Wednesday?
That's right. I think it was Tuesday night.
They just upset, it was what? Yeah, they just upset Kentucky. So now Maddie says that means we'll beat them. That tells me that, obviously we just beat Kentucky a couple weeks ago. So, but this game's on the road, and even if it were in the Bud Walton parking lot, I think Arkansas would lose. So, I've got no faith right now in the Arkansas basketball program. I'm sorry, I'm upset. If you can be as honest as I am, you can call in anytime and have a piece of the show. But tell me how Arkansas can win this game.
Well, typically, especially the last couple of weeks or so, when you talk Arkansas basketball, the conversation always turns, and it goes from the basketball games and the team to Mike Anderson and the program, and is he the right guy, and so on and so forth. And we've had some of those discussions. I'm sure later on we'll have some more too. But for right now, we will I'll look at the game for right now. I'll save some of the things I've heard on other media outlets the last few days, but. LSU is a good team. I mean, they have athleticism. I think that's where the SEC is an underrated conference. They're not good skill-wise. They're not one of the better conferences overall, but just in terms of size and athleticism, the SEC's got a pretty good amount of it in the conference. And LSU's a team with O'Brien in there. He's gotten better and better. I'm just worried about the Razorbacks on the glass. We know they struggle rebounding anyway against anybody. Now you're placing a team that was able to hold their own with Kentucky. Kentucky's one of the better rebounding teams in the country, and when Kentucky can't dominate you in that area, they really can't. They have a hard time against people. LSU was able to do that. Arkansas, a weak rebounding team. That's going to be a tough deal. You hope they play good perimeter defense. Hickey is going to be a nightmare to contain his penetration. We know he can get around the floor wherever he wants, but pressure's kind of off Arkansas now. You look at it that way. NCAA tournament expectations are basically out the window at this point. So would that help Arkansas play more relaxed and free? I don't know. I'm with you. I can't pick them to win a road game at this point, especially against an LSU team that's not bad. I think the only thing you can hope for, Mark, is maybe LSU's on too much of a high from the Kentucky win and they haven't come down yet. But, it's hard to pick the Hogs to win.
Well, I can tell you from the way this game's probably being perceived in LSU, Arkansas never wins on the road. Nah, we got this one. But I can see the coaches spinning it the other way. Arkansas never wins on the road. They're coming in here hungry, trying to get a win on the road against a team that just beat Kentucky. Now you win at LSU, and it's quality win, so to speak. So I can see this being spun both ways, and I just don't see Arkansas finding a way to win the game. I hope I'm wrong. It seems like every time we get to the point to where it's just like there's no chance. I've lost all faith. Something crazy happens, and it drags to me. It's just the life of a Razorback fan. We just have to be tortured all the time.
It feels like we do, Mark. And I said I didn't want to turn this into a program conversation, but I will in this way. I just look at the Missouri game. That Missouri game hurt in so many ways. It may have been, to me, the most painful loss I've seen in the Mike Anderson era just because of what all it represented. I mean, this is your last quality game at home, and you lose it. You were dominant at home. You lost to Florida, but you were still really good at home, and you lost that game against a beatable team who would have really helped your resume. To me, that game just hurt me because I didn't feel like they came out with the energy and being ready to play from the opening tip. and they just gave the game away. I mean, they lost at home against a quality opponent that they could have beaten, and it almost feels like a step back. You thought, well, Bud Walton is locked down. Now Arkansas just needs to find some road wins here or there, and they didn't. It just kind of stings to me still. Again, I don't want to get into the whole Mike Anderson and what he's a microcosm of and all that things that we heard some people say, but that one hurt me. I think they'll play well against LSU. I think they'll show up. I just don't know if I can pick them to win.
No, I won't pick them to win. And it's probably better that way because now I don't have to worry about, I can be pleasantly surprised. If they win, I'll be pleasantly surprised. If they lose, I expected that. So we'll see how the game goes. Again, that's at 4 o'clock on ESPNU tomorrow from LSU. All right, moving to football.
Yeah.
Got some recruiting stuff going on as the Razorbacks are trying to fine-tune trying to fine-tune a recruiting class that's got 17 commits, 5 signees, so I guess that's 22 people spoken for. Had a couple more drop off the other day, 2 guys from the Louisiana same high school in Louisiana near Denham Springs. And so now Arkansas sits with 17 commits. I'm trying to remember if we've told them about the last 3, Kendrick Edwards, Anthony Brown, and Cornelius Floyd. I believe we have.
Yeah, we did.
Told them about those three guys from Miami. But now Arkansas is looking to, this is the last big weekend of recruiting in the entire season. And there's some rumor here. I'm reading Hogville message board, a message board I get a lot of information from, about a secret visitor, another one. There was one last week, and the thought was that they just didn't want the news to get out about who it was and where they were going, and Brett Bielema was meeting with people in side rooms of restaurants, and who knows if any of that's true.
John Gruden was there.
Who knows if any of it's going to help if Arkansas. Maybe Tennessee's having secret visitors all over the place, but we've got lots of recruiting news over the next couple of weeks or over the next couple of days, and we'll be Wednesday delving very deeply into recruiting. Looks like Demetrius Jackson, a big guy that Arkansas wanted, was reaffirming his commitment to Miami, and there's some big guys. Frank Ragnow, who's going to announce today. A lot of people say he's going to stay there in Minnesota, but there are some folks who say he could come to Arkansas. So today could be a pretty big day, and this weekend I would look for some news out of recruiting front.
Yeah. Frank Ragnow, of course, he's down to Minnesota and Arkansas, and I look forward to him. Minnesota may be the favorite, but Coach Bielema, he knows that area. He can sell his experience up there. He can sell his offensive line trademark. That'll be really interesting. I'll be tuned in to see where Frank goes, and then Solomon Thomas, we know he's the big fish out there. National Signing Day, we'll hear from him. UCLA, Stanford, and Arkansas. From what I've heard, UCLA is a little bit more on the back burner, so it's almost gotten to be a 50-50 deal with Stanford and Arkansas, so we'll see that. And then Andrew Mike, the offensive lineman from Arizona, he's got Arkansas, Florida, Vanderbilt, and Penn State on his list. Arkansas feels good about him, so you would love to be able to close with those 3. And, of course, Demetrius Jackson's committed to Miami, so that's probably a long shot. But you would love to close on those 3. It'd be huge for the class.
And Corey McBride and Torrance Mosley, thanks, Maddie, for sharing with me who those guys were, both wide receivers out of Louisiana, or both players out of Louisiana that Arkansas had. I don't know if we can't speculate as to whether it was grade issues or things like that, or if Arkansas just cold and had a better guy in the queue and decided to go with them instead. But that's where we are right now as far as the recruiting class goes. If Solomon Thomas would come, that would be a very, very big deal. I don't think Kenny Young's coming. I think he's going to go to Texas A&M, if I'm not mistaken, from what I've been reading here. And then there are a couple other ones. Zach Wary, guy out of Rogers, and he has committed. Where did he decide to go to? Is it Missouri or? No, it's Wake Forest. Excuse me, it's Wake Forest. He's going to go to Wake Forest. There are some, I'm sure, it's just like last year with Alex Collins. It kind of came out of nowhere that he was on the radar. Arkansas was on his radar. I'm sure that there are going to be some guys who you hear about the next couple of days, but really until about mid-morning to afternoon of February the 5th, that's next Wednesday, you won't be able to tell really who's going to be committed. There's going to be somebody flip too. I can almost tell you there's going to be somebody from this class flip, somebody from another class flip here, and it's going to be crazy. But we talked to Nick Mason, who runs a sports radio show, the Hog Sports Radio, ESPN 99.5 in Northwest Arkansas. You can listen to him from 4 to 6 most of the time, but he's going to be on the radio all day, and he is going to talk to literally every single one of the recruits, all the signees, and we're going to get some information from him and share it. We're going to have breaking news from the recruiting front. As Arkansas signs these guys, they fax in their letters of intent. If you've never been a part of that process, you're going to enjoy Wednesday listening to us break news about so-and-so sent in their letter of intent. And Arkansas got this guy, and Arkansas found a way to flip this guy. It's going to be an exciting time.
It really is exciting. Exciting day. It's something that I've always watched from afar, and now I have a chance to be a little bit a part of it. You know, we sent out our letters today. We're sending out our letters to the kids we'll sign, and you know it's special whether you're going to Alabama, whether you're going JUCO. You have the assembly in the school, and everybody watches you sign on the dotted line. I want to remind people real quick. I know it's sort of on the back burner, but baseball season is coming up. Arkansas's third scrimmage at Baum Stadium today at 1:45. Valentine's Day season opener against Appalachian State.
That's a good gift to give your wife and yourself, or your girlfriend and yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
To go watch the Razorbacks opener. Speaking of signings, again, I want to mention February 4th, 3:30, Austin Robinson, Russellville High School. Signing with Crowder College. I want to be there, get some photos, get a little information from him. Thank you to Coach Long for sending me information. If you want your local team covered in greater detail, you can email mark@rivervalleyleader.com. I would appreciate it if you would tell your coaches, your athletic director, whoever, to email me stats, scores, quotes. That's all I need to put together a story and or post about your team, and we'd love to cover each school better. We just got one sports guy, so we've got all the time in the world, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, to share with you guys about your local team, but we got to get that information from you. So we appreciate you joining us. Root Denver in the Super Bowl, and we'll be back on Monday at 11 o'clock. For Weldon and Maddie, I'm Mark saying so long. You have a good weekend.